It's time to gather loved ones together for all the holidays' best spread. Lynn's has great prices on all your favorite Thanksgiving items, from delicious turkey with all the fixings to mashed potatoes and yummy pies. We have everything you need to create your perfect Thanksgiving dinner. Whether it's cooking the traditional meal, completely store-bought, or a combination of both, your best holiday meal starts here. Learn more and start shopping today at linsgrocery.com. Lynn's, where delicious begins.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blabbin' About Batman, the animated series, the podcast that taught a piranha to smile. I am one of your hosts, the dedicated, career-oriented young man, Bob Mackey, and this is the Talking Simpsons Network's exploration of Batman, the animated series. Who is here with me today?
Nerds to you, Mr. Smarty Bat. It's Henry Gilbert.
And this week's episode is Mad Love.
Harley Quinzel. Rework it a bit, and you get Harley Quinn.
I didn't know that. And this week's episode originally aired on January 16th, 1999. And as always, Henry will tell us what happened on this mythical day in real world history.
The latest reports say that the wave of foolish hysteria is moving down 7th Avenue towards the financial district.
Holy news, Bobby! The impeachment trial of Bill Clinton has officially begun in Congress. The Kids WB airs the final episode of Batman the Animated Series that's new, and sadly, Gene Siskel hosts his final episode of Siskel and Ebert at the movies.
It's funny that impeachment doesn't matter at all. And I guess it used to once, but then was Trump impeached twice?
Oh yeah, double impeached.
Yeah,
well, the second one after he was out of office, just to do it. I mean, well, you know, I think the Democrats are like useless people in Congress, but if the guy causes a bunch of people to storm the Capitol, I feel like you do just have to do it just to prove, like, look, there are rules. We at least have to do this.
We officially don't like you on paper.
Yeah, but yeah, in our childhoods, that impeachment felt special because you could just look in the history books like, oh, when was the last impeachment trial? The only other one, like over 100 years ago for Jackson, I think it was. Or no, the guy after Lincoln, he was the other one. But and then now it's like happened twice since then. And not only that, but like I have a feeling either Biden or who comes after him, whatever the next Democrat is after him, the Republicans, if they control both houses, they'll impeach that guy twice or woman twice as well. They might even do it 3 times just to say like, there, now you're the most impeached president, not Donald Trump.
We triple officially don't like you.
Yeah. Though once you have double impeachments, it's like, oh, then it clearly impeachment doesn't matter. I thought it meant something. It doesn't mean anything.
No, laws don't mean anything if they're not really enforced.
Nope.
There's no punishment.
Yep.
And Gene Siskel, R.I.P. to him. He's been dead now for more than 20 years, which is crazy.
Yep.
And sadly, his legacy did not live on because Roger Ebert had the foresight to put everything he ever wrote on the internet.
Yeah.
And it's still to this day very hard to find Gene Siskel's writing.
I know, yeah. Ebert really was thinking much more about legacy and an online footprint. I mean, on top of that, too, even before he had his cancer issues of his own, Ebert was putting everything on the internet. Like, he was blogging so much, writing stuff. Like, he would write, 3 to 10 reviews a week. And then on top of that, he'd be like, as a follow-up to my review, here's 800 words about this. And
I used to love his blog in his final years. I would read it all the time. I loved his Twitter account. I still follow it, even though his wife took it over. So it's weird to see Roger Ebert tweeting.
Yes, yeah. I just saw something of like Roger Ebert reviews gives this. I was like, wait, what? But no. Meanwhile, Siskel, he. Like, the show went on without him. His stuff wasn't as kept online. And also, I feel like his reviews, like, I don't know, a great or mean Ebert review felt forever to me. Siskel as a character talking with Ebert, they are a great pair, but I only ever really read Roger Ebert,
And his name came first, so he was the most important one and the taller one. But you know what? He'll live on forever in that amazing episode of The Critic. It's trapped in amber, their relevance in 1995.
I watched some classic old interview with both of them for like 2020 or some news magazine, and they're asking Ebert first in the sequence, like, so why is it Siskel and Ebert, not Ebert and Siskel? And he says, I know, it doesn't make sense. I've been a professional critic longer than him. I have the awards. Ebert comes before Siskel in the alphabetically. You got to ask Siskel. Then it cuts to Siskel, and Siskel goes, I won the coin toss, and I'm never doing the coin toss again, so it's always going to stay Siskel and Ebert.
That rules.
Yeah.
I have to recommend, it's not necessarily a book about him, but Roger Ebert's autobiography, Life Itself. Of course, Siskel factors into it a lot because they were partners together for decades. Professional partners, that is. And the documentary, Life Itself, is amazing, too. It made me cry.
God, it's too much. It's too much, man, to see.
As an Ebert liker, it killed me.
And Siskel's widow is in it too, and she's talking about how, like, Ebert got to see his friend die from cancer, and then it happens to Ebert himself, and she's like, I for her, she's like, I've been an old hand through all this cancer stuff, so I could help them with it.
I do like that Ebert got to own gamers before he died.
Yes, yeah.
He made them so mad.
And also tell Transformers fans of, like, no, your movie sucked. I'm sorry.
You're a child. Go away.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about the final episode of this series today. But first, let's do a director's corner for Butch Lukic. If you want to know how to say that name, I looked it up. It's Lukic.
That's good. Okay. I've probably said Lukic or whatever in previous ones. Yeah.
It's from, I don't know, Czechoslovakia. Who knows? So Butch started in 1990 as a storyboard artist on the John Candy vehicle Camp Candy. Wow. And from there, he did storyboards on things like The Real Ghostbusters, New Kids on the Block, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures with an S,
right.
Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars. He was a storyboard director on that. And also James Bond Jr. and Conan the Adventurer. So a ton of storyboard work in a few short years before the Batman series.
Man, that's a lot of junk in there, but I wonder if, like, I know with other folks, Real Ghostbusters is where they first worked with Bruce Timm, so I wonder if that was his early Timm connection as well.
Maybe Tim knew of him then. I mean, Real Ghostbusters went on for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
Like 6 or 7 years, I think.
And then, also as you learn from, like, just reading any biography of folks, like, if you worked in Burbank as an animator in the 80s, you all knew each other. You probably all went to the same house parties in the same disgusting apartments.
You broke out of the same Hanna-Barbera prison cell.
Yes, yeah. You all are like, we had to work on Filmation last week. Barf.
So he was never a director on the original animated series, the original, like, 85 episodes, but he is credited with storyboards on 20 episodes of those. So he began directing on a 1995 episode of Gargoyles, and then directed 4 total episodes of the new Batman Adventures, where he's also listed as a series director. So his directorial work on Batman is limited to 4 episodes of the new Batman Adventures.
That's interesting that he did a little stint in Gargoyles and then went to Batman. Most people, they do the long haul on Gargoyles and then go elsewhere, not back to Batman in that travel. Yeah.
And then he directed a handful of episodes of Superman, and then tons of Batman Beyond. So he directed 15 episodes of Batman Beyond, and then moved on to Justice League and directed 27 episodes of that. So he was just in the pipeline for the next project after this.
I more associate him with that, third and fourth era of, who knows? It's how you measure time, but like the final phase of the DCAU, which does span like 7 years of Justice League cartoons.
Which is when I checked out because I don't care about the Justice League. I'm sorry.
You'll grow to love them. No, I mean, it's all the super things. It's super stuff, not noir stuff.
Yeah, it's not like mystery and detective stories.
Though I think you would like, they did several episodes I could pick out for you to be like, I think Bob would like these noir ones, especially where they bring in the guy they based Rorschach on, The Question. He has very like hard-boiled libertarian detective adventures, and everybody's like, "Man, you're a paranoid freak."
I'm sure I would like 15% of Justice League episodes if I gave it a chance. Maybe I will in the future. Who knows? But moving on to Butch Lukic, he also directed a ton of the second and third Ben 10 series. There's a lot of Ben 10s out there, and he was the supervising director on Beware the Batman. Again, a show I've never heard anyone mention, but it exists.
I mean, they air like Cartoon Network literally aired it 3 times and then took it away. Like, which when you look at it, it is expensive. It is so.
It looks pretty pricey. And since 2015, he's been a producer on a ton of Batman and DC stuff, including Batman Unlimited, Justice League Action, and the recent 2-part adaptation of The Long Halloween.
Okay, that's on HBO Max. I haven't given that a shot yet. I mean, the original comic is a great comic, but one thing that's special about it is Tim Sale's art, which is so detailed and specific. I watched a little trailer for it. There is no easy translation into animation.
No, and there's a lot of Batman content on HBO Max, and there's been so many direct to streaming and direct to video things over the past 15 years. It's really hard to tell what's good.
Oh yeah, the one I am looking forward to in 2022, it's a Catwoman one, which is directed by like an anime guy, and I don't know the anime studio, but it is a former Lupin director who's the director on it, and it's written by Greg Weisman.
Okay.
Mr. Gargoyles. And then once I knew he wrote it, then I looked at the cast and I was like, hey, this is just all your Gargoyles friends, including Jonathan Frakes in the lead role.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Yes,
I'm looking forward to that more now than the J.J. Abrams reboots.
Oh, yes. Yeah. No, the Chad Catwoman special versus the Virgin J.J. reboot. That might be good. But I'm just saying, watch that trailer for that Catwoman one. I mean, also, it is anime horny for Catwoman, which I'm fine with.
Sure.
Catwoman is sexy.
I say, prove us wrong, J.J. Prove us wrong.
Prove us wrong.
So this episode, Mad Love, it's based on the 64-page one-shot Batman Adventures comic released in December of 93, and it won the Eisner in 1994 for Best Single Issue.
Yeah, just Bruce Timm is equal to Nina Matsumoto in that way.
Exactly.
He is an Eisner winner. Yes.
And just like the last episode, it's also based on a one-shot. So there was that one-shot holiday issue. This was a one-shot Harley Quinn issue.
Yeah, some could complain that like, oh, they just took it easy in this third season where they just adapted a bunch of their best stuff that they did outside of the show. But I think like they adapt these like perfectly, like so good. And also it helped that like it definitely seemed like Kids WB was way more lax than Fox about this stuff.
Yeah, especially if you're watching this one. And if you read the comic, and I read it again for this, it's like 93% the same thing. They cut a few scenes that actually improve the animated version, and a few lines of dialogue are changed for both like censorship and also I guess they thought a joke was funnier in a different way.
There was one, I'll say it when we get to, there was only one bit that I was like, oh, I wish they kept that in there. But I remember reading this in December 93 or early 94 and feeling like there's nothing in it that's like too dirty. But when I was 12 or 11 reading it, I just thought, oh my God, they could never do this on the show. She kissed a guy and made hearts appear on his head.
Well, you can see, I mean, she's wearing lingerie in this animated version, but in the comic version, you can see the silhouette of her body underneath the lingerie.
Yes. Yeah, it's much more see-through. Again, like Tim, in the deluxe edition of it, like that has Tim writing about remembering it and remembering making it, and same with Deanie. Deanie, I think, is the one who says like, yeah, and Tim would just do a great Harley sexy pose. And I was like, yeah, that's good. And then Tim in another part would say like, I like drawing hot girls. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
give him a break. Some people like girls.
Yes,
all right. Actually, I think he was saying my DC editor regrets giving me all this freedom now.
Yes. Yeah.
Because this was a kid. This is like ostensibly a children's comic, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, to be a Batman Adventures like special, I mean, it was not published as Batman Adventures number 78 or whatever. It was separate, and it did have a certain level of prestige to it above a regular Batman Adventures comic, but it was still pitched as a kid's book. I think when it won the Eisner, that was within the comic industry, their way of saying like, you need to pay attention to Batman Adventures. They're actually doing good stuff in it. That's why then, a couple years later, when the Superman Adventures comic was really doing great stuff based on the show, people were more ready to listen. Of like, no, seriously, Scott McCloud, Mark Millar, Dan Slott, they're all writing really good Superman stories that just happen to be in the world of the cartoon. Yeah,
once this miniseries is finished with production, I'm going to go back to those old comics because I haven't read most of them. And again, we've said it before, but the same people working on the show worked on the comics. We don't know how.
Yes, yeah.
Actually, some of the interviews in that book, You Let Me Henry, they talk about just being late all the time with all of their work.
Yeah, I do see, with the December 93 timing, that does seem to line up with like, we just finished Mask of the Phantasm and we're about to start up season 2. So we have a little break to do that. And I mean, that shows you how much these guys fucking love Batman that they're like, well, we just finished 65 episodes of Batman in a movie. I got to draw some more Batman and tell this story.
I mean, I'm married to a comic artist. I know how long it takes to make like a graphic novel. So I wonder just how much of his time this took up, having to write these comics and draw these comics.
They detail another one they did where it's like Etrigan and Batman hanging out, and it's an annual, and they say like 72 hours they drew the whole thing because they just found out like while working on the show, they were reminded like, hey, you were agreed to this and we already solicited the issue, and they're like, oh, it's on sale in 2 weeks. Fuck. And so they are just like, and this is pre-digital, so they're just like, he drew a storyboard page and then I lightboxed it and just drew over it, and then he drew it back, and then we just shoved it out the door. 48 pages in 72 hours.
It's a good looking comic.
It really is, yeah.
So Mad Love, the title I'm guessing comes from the 1935 Peter Lorre movie. There's also a 1995 movie with Chris O'Donnell and Drew Barrymore that has nothing to do with this comic.
Yeah.
It's just called Mad Love, but nobody remembers that movie.
No,
and if you do, you're wrong to remember it. So punish yourself in whatever way you feel is suitable.
No, I much more remember The Boys on the Side from a similar time with a time frame starring Drew Barrymore.
Was she also riding in cars with boys?
Yeah, she did that.
They were on the side. They were in the cars.
She did lots of things with boys.
Yeah.
She was a bad girl. That was her character.
And the story behind this comic is, so Paul Dini pitched the idea to Bruce Timm as a potential episode of the series, and Tim was like, no, let's do it as a comic instead. And Bruce Timm in that book has more to say about the origins of the story, so I'll quote him here. So Bruce Timm says, quote, a mutual friend of ours was stuck in a stormy but non-violent relationship with a guy whose personal obsession precluded him from returning her unconditional love. I'm happy to report that the real-life Harley did finally break away from her Joker and has been happily married for several years now. And going back to the original title, Mad Love, I think it is a reference to that Peter Lorre movie, because this is a noir psychodrama
100%
about like a crazy dame in love with this vicious gangster.
If only she'd stop and realize she's too good for him. This poor, it's making this the core of her character has been a tumultuous thing for people to deal with Harley going forward, because like she needs to be Joker's her as Joker's sidekick is an interesting combo, but it is a bad relationship, and so other writers and artists afterwards have had to deal with like, well, do we keep do we make a bad, toxic, abusive, physically abusive relationship funny or interesting? Like that feels uncomfortable.
I had to come to terms with how I don't like the newer Harley Quinn, and I was thinking, well, I like this old one, but she's also just a victim of abuse.
Yeah.
So I don't want to see that, but I think she's more of a fun character. I don't quite like the girl boss version of her.
She's okay in Birds of Prey.
I like the movie, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because I like this performance more and I like it in animation more. I don't know, but it's funny to see where she came, where she's been since this episode, because we said it before, and I'm sure I'll restate this before the podcast is over. This is the final episode of the series. I know she's in comics. I know she's in other stuff for nerds, but guess what? Nobody reads comics. People care about movies and television shows and video games. For 10 years, she's gone. Then 10 years later, in 2009, she comes back in Arkham Asylum. And I think that's what made everyone remember the character, because, I don't know, 8 million people played that game. And it was like, oh, Harley Quinn, right. Yeah. She's so cool. And then that kickstarted the Harley Quinn industry we're all part of now.
Though, I didn't love her suicide girlification in Arkham Asylum.
I mean, the writing was good.
Yes.
But everyone was McFarlane up.
Yes, yeah. I mean, because they hired a McFarlane like staff artist to design everybody with. That is the longest Batman ears I ever damn seen in that game. Like Batman's ears. But
longer than they are in this version of the series.
But yeah, Bob, you're right. As a comic reader, I knew that Harley had slowly transitioned into the comics. Like around when this aired, she was starting to appear in real DC comics, meaning the true DC universe, not books for kids or Elseworlds or all that stuff. But they weren't giving her the A+ treatment, and like she was in a side book that people didn't super love, and they were kind of like, okay, is she Joker's sidekick or is she an independent lady? I think really a thing that boosted her was that Paul Dini started writing DC mainline books in about 2006. And so he was able to put her in key positions and kind of start building her up again. And then comes the Arkham games, which make her so key to it. And you're right. From there, it's like, oh, she's appearing in more of the comics, more of the cartoons and side stuff too. They put her in her own like R-rated cartoons as well.
Yeah.
And then boom, she's the star of Suicide Squad. Like, she's the breakout character of
both Suicide Squads.
Yeah. She is, I think, the best part of the second Suicide Squad, of the Suicide Squad. And yeah, I think the version that Margot, I was rewatching Birds of Prey's opening, which pretty much just takes like bits and pieces from this Mad Love origin and puts it in there. And same like Arkham Asylum, I believe it's in the audio logs for Harley.
That's true.
It's her doing the scenes from this episode of interviewing the Joker pre-Origin. And Arkham Origins also takes a little bit of the... I know you're playing it. I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's
a plot in that game?
There is,
okay.
Yeah. And then some bits of this are peppered into there as well.
I see.
Though it takes more from the Killing Joke, I'll say. But yeah, there's this... adds so much to the Batman mythos I don't think people really appreciate, including like the Joker in this one especially reminds me a lot of Dark Knight Joker, and I think like line wise they took a bit from him too. But reading Tim say that it was inspired by a woman they knew who was in a bad relationship with a guy, to me that sounds like it was probably either a writer or an animator who is too focused on his job and ignores his girlfriend.
I see.
And that, because especially like I at first thought like, oh, is Dini and Tim writing about themselves here because they feel bad that sometimes they've been the Joker, that they had a hot girlfriend who was like, hey baby, let's ride the old Harley, and they're like, I have to write this Batman story, get out of here. That's I feel there's some, I don't think they were, I'm not saying that they were abusive partners like the Joker, but I do think some of their guilt about being obsessed with Batman to the damage of their relationship comes through in these stories.
With how productive they were being, you could see that they'd be going over their quote unquote blueprints all day and ignoring their partners. Yeah. Like again, Harley Quinn for most people went away for 10 years, and it was just kind of a footnote. It's like, oh yeah, Kevin Smith named his daughter Harley Quinn. That's kind of neat. And I wonder how she feels now.
Well, now she's the star of all his movies. And so,
I'm sorry, the star of Yoga Hosers, Harley Quinn.
Yes, yeah, and of course, Jay, I'm at this point it's old when you're listening to this, but I was just putting on the second half of the Kevin Smith He-Man series, and yeah, she's in that too, of course. Not as a major character, but and it's, hey, it's a fine show. That He-Man Revelations, a fine show, especially if you actually give a crap about He-Man like mythology and history. It kind of pays off a lot of stuff.
I've heard it's good. In front of the show, Griffin Newman is on there.
Oh, he's great. Orko, he was born to play Orko.
I just feel that now that Troma is kind of on its way out, Lloyd Kaufman's getting older. No one's watching their movies on YouTube at all. I look at the numbers and it's kind of startling. Kevin Smith just becomes the new Troma. I mean, Yoga Hosers and that Jay and Silent Bob movie are just Troma movies.
But he's also the new Stan Lee, because he's like, oh, we hire you to be the nerd guy. Like he can't get high and just say like, oh, that fucking sucks, man. Kevin Smith has to like everything now because that's the position he's in. Like he can't be critical.
I like his sentimentality and sincerity. And maybe you have to die to reach that level or almost die. But I don't like posting yourself crying over the most like middlebrow entertainment. Yeah, it's a bit much, and it's harmless. I'm not going to complain too much, but I'm just like, oh, I hope I'm not like that.
He just did it over Ghostbusters as well.
Oh my God, he cried over Ghostbusters.
Well, if you haven't had Ghostbusters, I haven't watched it, but if you haven't had Afterlife spoiled for you, it works really hard to tear at your heartstrings. But
you are not allowed to hate this. We brought a man back to life.
I know, which like this is spoiler town for Afterlife. I don't want to spoil it in case somebody listening hasn't seen it yet.
It's fair. I'm done talking about this now.
But yeah, this comic, so damn good. I'm watching this episode and reading the comic at the same time. They barely lose anything. I just wish Joker had lipstick in it. I just miss his... There's so many funny expressions in the comic that hinge on him having lips and pupils that I think get less funny in his redesign.
I will say I like they can spend more time on one panel in the comic, and some of the more iconic panels from that are not as effective in animation. But they follow everything to a T. The dialogue, the posing, the staging. It was their blueprint for the storyboards.
Yeah, it's just so perfect. And yeah, like you said, this is the last one that aired, the last new one. Though in production order, it's not the last. Like on the Blu-rays, it's not last. Yeah, it should be last. But
and for some reason, it snuck into 1999. The show should have ended in 1998. But this one. This airs while Batman Beyond starts. This has started up already.
And I found somebody scanned and uploaded like a table read draft script of this, and the final draft is dated at August of 1997. So that's how long they sat on this episode for, probably close to a year after they.
Yeah, I think it was like a 24 episode order, and they were done with it, and those were parceled out between 2 seasons.
Yeah, which but that long-term the time it take to air it, I got to hear about in online or in Wizard magazine, like they're adapting Mad Love, and so I was waiting for this episode hardcore. By the time I was 16, I was very interested in this.
I missed this when it originally aired. I think I saw it for the first time when it was on Blu-ray. DVD, like in the late aughts.
Right.
So it was new to me.
Which, how could they not? I'm mad they didn't do commentary for this. There's only 2 commentaries. Like just get Bruce Timm to sit down again with everybody and redo commentaries on stuff.
By the time these episodes came out on DVD, the DVDs were kind of winding down a bit.
Yeah, you're right. By the 4th volume or 3rd volume, I could see them just say like, this ain't gonna make enough money. Like, yeah.
And we did Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker in October, and that made me think, you know what? I've been sitting on this for too long. I'll give Batman Beyond a chance and watch more of it. Then we start doing production on this, and once I get to the end of this, I'm like, no, I now actively resent the series again, because this is where they ended. This is where they ended, and guess what? I mean, this series honestly could not have gone past 1999, because that's when WB got Pokemon, and that's when they're like, oh, this is way cheaper. What the hell are we doing?
No.
See you later, WB.
There's no way Batman survives the existence of Pokemon. No way, no how. I mean, that's why Justice League moved to Cartoon Network, because Gene McCurdy could actually like protect them there and say, no, we can spend real money for you on Cartoon Network.
It's like the ink was still wet on the Batman Beyond contract when they picked up Pokemon, so they couldn't do anything about it.
Exactly. Yeah, they're like, well, we already signed up for 52. Let's go all the way. But then, once, like we said on the Batman Beyond one, they do that 3rd season. That gets it even worse than Mad Love. The last 2 episodes of Batman Beyond they air like a year later, and on Cartoon Network, not even on Kids WB.
Was that because of 9/11?
I mean, partially.
Okay.
One of the last episodes they air is about like terrorism and blowing up buildings, so partially it was that. But that they didn't even want to air it on Kids WB. By the time they're like the 2002 fall season, they just go, Cartoon Network can have it. It's first run on Cartoon, just like Freakazoid. Freakazoid had the same deal.
That's right. Yeah. That's why whenever you see Freakazoid footage on YouTube, it's got the Cartoon Network bug in the corner. Usually. So yeah, also animation by Coco and Dong Yang. If you want me to tell you about those, we haven't been paying attention to the series because they've been animating a lot so far.
And this is one of their better ones. They always give you like a B+,
Yeah, and they had a great blueprint once again.
Oh yeah. No, I Tim is credited for like on the script as like co-story writer, but I mean, I do know the comics aren't exactly the storyboards, and you can tell storyboarders had to like rework pages and stuff. But so much of this is taken from Bruce Timm's like amazing comic pages. I never thought of it before until reading his afterword, but that he said like he was so influenced by Mad Magazine's Harvey Kurtzman. I was like, that it all clicks into place.
It's perfect. I mean, just do a Google image search for Kurtzman's work and you'll see the connection.
Yes. I always think of him just as like, he's a guy who likes Kirby, but it's not just, it's also, it's Kurtzman and Kurtzberg, which that's Jacob Kurtzberg. That's Kirby's real name.
Jack Kirby's Jewish? I knew that. Yeah, some things I noticed about this and Holiday Nights is I think just out of necessity, animation-wise, there will be other characters in the background in the scene, like extras, but they get rid of them. So in Holiday Nights, when Batman goes on the shopping spree with Harley and Ivy, there's other people in the store watching all of this as he's humiliated and he's getting off on it, I think.
He's a pay pig in that one, yes.
When Gordon goes to the dentist, the building is occupied. There are like people in the hallway, but I think it's creepier and it's a more effective Joker plot that he's the only one in this entire office building floor.
Yeah,
and maybe he killed everyone because you know what? The Joker is so much more hardcore in these new Batman adventures. He's an ugly character.
Yeah, he's ugly. Like he's like just this skull-faced guy who murders people like this. And this episode gets, I'm shocked. Reading the comic page, I was like thinking before rewatching it, oh man, they must have had to trim that down. And there's so many references like the Joker kills a bunch of people that they just keep in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I guess the Joker is a mass murderer in the show.
It's
now.
funny. Some of the things that are quote unquote censored are things that are cut out of dialogue, but they'll be like written down on a newspaper or like a legal pad. So they're technically still in the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, in our first clip here, Commissioner Gordon is walking into a very obvious trap.
I don't mind saying I really hate these checkups. If it weren't part of the police physical, I wouldn't be here at all.
Oh, come now, Commissioner. What in this miserable world is more beautiful than a nice big smile?
Naughty, naughty! Jump around like that and Doctor won't give you a lollipop.
Whether your car has small tires, big tires, tires that go fast, tires with extra grip, or tires that just get you from here to there, they can be an unexpected expense. Don't wait any longer. At Big O Tires, we have no credit needed financing available. So no matter your budget, no matter your situation, we have the lowest prices on every kind of tire every day. With multiple lending partners, our financing is tailored to you with credit options made easy. Don't wait another day. Take advantage of our good to no credit financing today. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
You little good...
My. This doesn't look good at all. I'm afraid everything will have to go.
It was an easy hint, Joker. Sloppy, predictable. You're losing your edge.
And there's nothing, I mean, it's kind of a silly plot, but the Joker is just going to drill his face a bunch until he dies.
Yep. Yeah. He's, it's not, Batman is right to call him out on this. Like, well, you're going to just drill his face open. Like, I guess that's, an okay death trap. Did you notice the anagram on the door for the DDS?
Like Dr. J. Recco, DDS.
Yeah. It's just Joker backwards, but the J at the front. Yeah. Also, it was funny to read that this was like a plot they had for another Joker episode that they just cut of like, oh, we'll just use this as a set piece. They repurpose it and then say like, oh, there's a reason it got cut is what Batman's saying. It's kind of boring, like pretty obvious, like,
You're losing your touch. And I'm looking at the at IMDb right now, and yes, this is the last time he plays the Joker in an animated production outside of the Return of the Joker movie. But technically, is that really the Joker? Let's ask ourselves that.
Well, in the flashback, it's really the Joker,
right. It is.
He is in there.
He is in that. But yeah, again, not until Arkham Asylum does he come back. So, I mean, you can count the Batman Vengeance, and I think I don't think he's in Rise of Sin Tzu or Sin Tzu.
No, he is. He does appear in a Justice League episode 1, and it's a big deal. Like, wow, the Joker's here. That's cool. He's really hamming it up. Like, that's right, your old pal Joker. He's here. But no, this is kind of a farewell for all these guys. Like, and it's fun hearing Joker. There's 2 bits in here that got worse through the adaptation only because of the facts of the universe, which is in a comic book, you can see a word balloon from a person who's off screen,
right,
but you don't hear their voice. So then the reveal of who's saying it can be a surprise. Twice in this episode, they translate that in there, but unfortunately, you have to. It's an audio medium. You know that's the Joker's voice, though Hamill is doing a good normal guy voice as the Joker.
I mean, if you don't know it's the Joker from the sign on the door, then you are too young to be watching this.
That's true, yeah. You should probably know it's Joker anyway.
Actually, I'm looking at other Joker appearances by Hamill. He was in Static Shock as the Joker, which I wasn't aware of.
I gotta watch that Static Shock show.
There was a 2002 Birds of Prey TV series. He was the Joker in that twice.
What?
Yeah, what is that?
Okay, well, that got canceled like almost instantly. I believe he's just the Joker in a flashback. I don't think he appears on screen as the Joker. It's like his it takes place in like 20 years in the future, where Batman's daughter teams up with like Black Canary and stuff. It's not exactly the Birds of Prey used to just be Huntress and Black Canary, and then they shove in Harley Quinn, who just kind of takes it over because he's like, yeah, I'm Harley Quinn. This is my show now.
Yeah, I guess so. If you don't count 12 other appearances, this is his last appearance as the Joker.
I mean, I consider this a farewell to his Joker. I mean, his real last one is Arkham Knight. Like, I don't think, no, then he did the Killing Joke series.
He just can't stop.
I know. He said, well, then he came back for, that's also in that He-Man show. He is Skeletor, and in the second half, he is hamming it up so hard as Skeletor. You can tell he just loves it. And Kevin Smith is like, no, be a bigger ham. Be crazier. Be as big as the Joker.
He misses the Joker. Well, I can respect Arlene Sorkin for just retiring, period.
Yeah. Well, and both of them are very rich. But like Mark Hamill.
Arlene Sorkin is not Mark Hamill rich. She's not Star Wars rich.
But her husband, the
right.
Frasier man, she's got that Frasier bucks.
And actually, she's got more than Star Wars bucks. Frasier is worth more at this point in history.
If you're an executive producer versus a Star Wars actor, you probably executive producer of Frasier, you probably make more. But
I think so.
But also, like, she was never like, she's a working actress. Like Mark Hamill, he wanted to be the Joker. Like, as famous as he was in 1991, he was like, hey, please let me be the Joker, please, please, please. So he's the real deal. He wants this for real.
So, yes, we heard Harley there. She's playing the nurse in this little game, and she interrupts Batman to tell him the teeth were her idea. So there's like a little bit of the teeth aren't chattering. Maybe they were supposed to, but there's a little like name tag on it, like to Batman, care of Gotham PD. So
which means she ruined it.
Yeah,
like he wouldn't have come in time, and they'd have just murdered Gordon. Yeah,
it's part of the plot for them, like at least sending out one clue, because it's like the joy, it's like the thrill of almost getting caught is part of this too.
I think that's for Joker. Yeah. I mean, well, like Batman will say later in the app, part of it is for Joker is that Batman has to be witness to it. He has to know, like so for this, Batman would need to come in. Though I think this plan for Joker just was like, well, I'm going to murder Gordon, and essentially, like, long term, this will just piss off Batman.
Yeah,
like, that's why I'm doing this.
It'll really cheese him off.
Yeah.
And her other plan is to just spray him with dental anesthesia, and she's really showboating here. She's upstaging the Joker by saying, "It's a real gasser, isn't it?"
Yeah.
And the Jester, sorry, not the Jester. This is the Joker. She's wearing a Jester's cap, which he yanks on and says, "I give the punchlines around here."
Man, like, yeah, from that moment there, it's like, Joker is rarely nice to Harley. Like in this same season, there's the great episode Joker's Millions, where he just like gives her the boot and hires a new, cheaper one to replace her, who calls him Mr. G all the time. So they always show that like Joker cares way less about Harley than Harley cares about Joker. But this time it's like him just being like, I am going to beat you if you don't shut up. Like, it is physically imposing on her.
And he basically like yanks her out of the room to leave Batman behind.
Well, I think too, Joker knows that she's starting to be challenging him for popularity in the real world. He's like, hey, I'm going to put you in your place. You're not going to upstage me.
It's really true. There's only one movie called Joker, but then Harley Quinn's a star of a bunch of movies now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'll never be big. The Joker is like number one, the most famous like comic book villain ever. So even as big as Harley gets, I don't think she'll ever surpass the Joker.
He had like a 40-year head start though.
Yes. Yeah. But now Harley, I mean, yeah, the next generation of kids who've grown up on like Harley everywhere, maybe then the next Harley after Margot Robbie, she wins the Oscar for just Harley.
I bet they're looking for a new one.
Yeah. Hey, she's an executive producer on that, so they can't just fire her.
Because they're like, how old are you, 24? Get out of here, Grandma. There's a new Aunt May role opening for you soon. Yeah, so Joker basically says goodbye to Batman, throws a grenade into the room and says, may the floss be with you. That is not what he says in the comic. I think he just says, remember to, floss between meals or whatever, but this was the one time they could make Mark Hamill say a Star Wars thing, and it was in the final episode.
That also is why this feels like the end, where they're just like, you know what? Mark, let's just do it. We haven't made you say a Star Wars line yet. We've let you be your own guy, and you're not just Luke Skywalker is Joker. But now that we're at the end, let's just have some fun.
Give us one Star Wars line.
Yeah.
But Batman saves Commissioner Gordon, chucks the grenade out the window off of his lap, and shields him from the blast. And we get
I love when his bat cape just shields people like that. That somehow it's like fireproof and explosion proof.
Yeah, no shrapnel can pass through it. And we get one last quip from Gordon. I really hate these checkups. And in the book, Gordon is in it more. He's kind of backing Batman up with a few things. Honestly, it's superfluous. It doesn't need to be in the book, and it's not in the cartoon.
Yeah. No, the way the book reads, it honestly could have been a two-parter if they wanted to really luxuriate in every scene of the book, but they made the right cuts to get this down to 22. And even then, this moves so fast in 22 minutes.
Every minute is packed. And we are now at Funny Bone Shipping, the new ironically named Joker hideout.
Batman should know that.
It must be, I guess, like, if there's an abandoned novelty warehouse in Gotham, you need to just destroy it. Because there's like 8 of them, and the Joker finds a new one every time.
I've said it before, but any abandoned amusement park, Wayne Tech should just buy the second it hears about it and just bulldoze it. Be like, there, no more abandoned amusement
Don't
park.
even check it for supervillains first. just blow it up with them inside.
Yeah.
The Joker is working on blueprints. Harley is sneaking up behind him wearing some skimpy lingerie and humming a jaunty tune, and he is not he's not in horny jail for her. In fact, he broke out. He's in work jail.
Yeah, so I like this Joker too, that like as an abusive partner, one of his things is that he just won't give her anything. That like she is so sexy and hot, but Joker, part of his control of just like, no, you can't get me, you can't make me excited to have sex with you. Like, I'm in control here. I'll have sex with you when I feel like
you're not as important as what I'm doing now.
Yes, yeah. And also it definitely keys into the idea of Joker is obsessed with Batman. He doesn't give a fuck about sex or anything else.
And there's some good camera moves that are mimicking the staging of the comic. Like, we see the back of her bare legs. We push through them to the back of the Joker really hard at work.
Joker right between her legs, like, meow. And though, honestly, I was thinking, like, this is pretty lax on WB's part. But in the Beware the Creeper episode, that is her coming out of the cream pie, covered in just white goo. And I was like, this isn't even as sexually suggestive as that. Which, by the way, don't Google that term, Harley Quinn cream pie.
That's an entire category on Pornhub, I think.
Yes, yeah.
So she just basically poses seductively on the desk. Again, in the comic version, it's not like porno or anything, but you can see the silhouette. Bruce Timm loves drawing pointy breasts. He's a real pinup artist at heart.
You know, him and Masamune Shiro have very similar tastes in pointed, curved breasts, though he's not as into the greasy breasts.
He doesn't want to grease them up.
Grease those up? This is too dirty, this episode.
Yes. So Harley is horny in our next clip.
Go away. I'm busy.
Oh, come on, Puddin'. Don't you want to rev up your Harley? Vroom, vroom. Oh, sweetie, I got the whoopee cushion.
Batman was right. That setup today was corny. Old hat. It's time I capped off our feud with his ultimate humiliation. Followed by his deliciously delirious death.
Why don't you just shoot him?
Just shoot him? Know this, my sweet. The death of Batman must be nothing less than a masterpiece. The triumph of my sheer comic genius over his ridiculous mask and gadgets.
Yeah, I mean, Harley's asking the question every viewer asks of all these people. And you know what? I mean, spoilers at the end, that's kind of what he wants to do.
I love, this was the first time it really hit me like, this line isn't just about Joker's, vision and how like he thinks bigger than Harley or whatever. It's about Joker's a hypocrite. He says he wants all this stuff really just so that he can yell at Harley and put her in her place because he's an asshole. But then at the end of the episode, when he's got the chance, he's like, you know what? I am just going to like just a slug between the eyes. The end.
And he doesn't even give her credit. Well, because he just thinks, she's dead now. Who cares? I just killed her.
Well, all he does is steal credit from her. Like that's and also, this why don't you just shoot him thing. obviously this episode airs after Austin Powers has a similar joke, but the comic was years before Austin Powers.
That's right. Yeah, that's what Scott Evil says.
I love it. He's
Dr.
like,
Evil.
just shoot him. He's like, you just don't get it. Dude. I just love that. I know Austin Powers. I'm just going to do all the impressions.
Freaking
now.
lasers.
Yeah, Scotty, don't. Yeah, but
hey, it's still good. The first one's still good.
But yeah, I just love that he's like, it's corny old hat. Again, this is like a dork planning stuff. And actually, in that Mr. Mix's Spitlick episode, pretty much the same thing, also written by Paul Dini, has a very similar scene of a super dork making plans to attack Superman and ignoring his super sexy wife, who's just like, hey, let's go out on the town. And he's like, no, I got to get Superman.
There's a theme that runs through their work.
Yes, yeah.
So Joker, while he's having a little tantrum here, he sprays acid out of a flower. It basically just melts a Batman mannequin. Harley has to duck out of the way.
He basically was going to kill her there. Like, I know that because it's a supervillain weapon, it doesn't feel as awful as him backhanding her in the episode, because that's just like realistic violence. But in both cases, the intent is there of like an abusive man, like that.
I'm gonna spray this acid. If any of it gets on you, it's your fault.
Everything's her fault. Like, yeah, I mean, also too, that whoopee cushion line, I'm like, I don't want to know how that's incorporated into the bedroom by Joker and
it's
Harley.
a cute naughty joke that is like a sex toy for them. And I think Paul Dini said the network or DC didn't have a problem with the rev up your Harley line because they saw it as silly and not sexy. So they're like, oh, it's a silly, goofy line.
Yeah, when it's like, no, you're going to ride your Harley like that. She's saying rev up, but you ride a Harley.
Yeah, I mean, she's doing the pantomime of like riding.
Yes, yeah, when she does the rev up, she's also bouncing up. I mean, the intention here is clearly Harley Quinn wants to have sex. Like, this is a kid's cartoon, and in this kid cartoon, this character is saying, have sex with me, your sexy girlfriend.
Adapted from the children's comic drawn by sickos.
All these sickos.
Written by the King Sicko, Paul Dini.
We better lock them all up. That's what I think.
So while the Joker is having this tantrum, he spots a blueprint on the ground that he forgot about. It's called The Death of 1,000 Smiles. Sorry, 100 Smiles, not 1,000. It's one of his abandoned plans, and he's going over what the plan is. Basically, piranhas eat Batman, so the last thing he sees are 100 beautiful, hungry smiles. But the one problem is he remembers why he scrapped the plan. He couldn't get the piranhas to smile, not even with Joker gas.
Yeah. That's an important thing to do, because in Laughing Fish, it was shown that Joker toxin can make fish smile, but apparently it doesn't work on piranhas. It worked on that other breed of fish.
Maybe only freshwater fish? I don't know.
I wish, they cut it later, but that's another bit, a little joke I wish they'd have kept, when Harley says, like, I had to get all these fish from everywhere, and I hate fish, because in Laughing Fish, she hates fish.
That's right. I forgot that was a character detail.
Yeah, but yeah, this again, if you take Joker as a guy who writes for the Batman cartoon show, this is him going like, I got to think of a plot for next week's episode. Oh, wait, what about this old plot? Wait, it doesn't work. The ending sucks. And then when his girlfriend fixes the ending for him, then he just gets mad like, no, how dare you fix the ending? This was my story.
It's kind of about writer's block, not just emotional abuse.
Yes, yeah. Which, again, though, that makes the Batman creatives Joker in this sense, which I don't want to say that.
Now we've all become the Joker, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So Joker slumps on the stairs. He's very crestfallen, and Harley comes up behind him and says, I know how to make some smiles, Puddin'. And then we cut to the outside, this alley where his little hyenas are standing by, and then she's just thrown out the door.
On her face.
I think Harley does get abused, but it never feels more personal than when you see the backhand in this episode.
Oh, sure.
So, presumably he could have just kicked her out the door. You know, it could have been a much more violent act, but we don't see it.
No, there's some
and it's more cartoonish.
It's played just like, it's like Garfield being kicked out of the house, or just
DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yeah, exactly. But when you really think about it, like, here she is just basically naked, kicked out to the curb. In the cartoon, they can't really like cover her in gross street crime like she is on the comic page. But yeah, it's I also just love when she's away from the Joker. Sorkin does such a great job with her character of like her voice changes to let you know she is putting on a voice to be a person around the Joker. Like, that's a very important detail about Harley's character.
And so she comes to all the wrong conclusions.
Face it, Harl, this stinks. You're a certified nutso wanted in 12 states and hopelessly in love with a psychopathic clown. At what point did my life go Looney Tunes? How did it happen? Who's to blame? Batman, that's who. Batman! It's always been Batman! Ruining my life! Spoiling my fun! Coming between me and my pudding from the very beginning.
Harleen Quinzel, I'm Joan Leland.
Hi, Joan. Call me Harley. Everyone does.
I must admit, I was surprised you wanted to intern here at Arkham.
Well, I've always had an attraction for extreme personalities. They're more exciting, more challenging.
And more high profile?
You can't deny there's an element of glamour to these super criminals.
I'll warn you right now. These are hardcore psychotics. If you're thinking about cashing in on them by writing a tell-all book, think again.
So in the comic, I like that they cut this out.
Yes.
It's revealed that before all of this, Harley is just a person of ill repute, sort of, in her own like duplicitous way, where in college she rises to the top by sleeping with her professors. It's kind of sex shamey, and it's kind of something I don't like them putting on her. Sorry, slut shamey. And I like that she arrives here as kind of an innocent, although it's implied like you're probably here to make a lot of money off these freaks.
Yeah.
So let me get one thing straight. It's not going to happen.
A key part of Harley's downfall is her hubris, that she thinks she's smarter than the Joker, that she's actually using Joker and Joker's not going to use her. That's important for her character. It makes her more. If she was just an innocent destroyed by the Joker, then it's just a tragedy. But if you add in just a little bit of like, oh, she actually thought she was going to trick the Joker and use him for a book deal. That makes her, at least you're not pitying her entirely all the time as just a pure victim of the Joker.
Yeah, I'm just happy that they cut out the parts like she rose to academic success by having sex.
Yes, yeah. That was something they were smart enough to already cut by this point.
Yeah.
You know, in the recent TV show and in the Margot Robbie stuff, they just treat her as like, no, she is a therapist for Joker. Like if she slept her way through college to get, a degree, then that also explains why she's not ready for the Joker and how the Joker can play mind games on her. I think it's much better of like, no, she's truly a genius, but the Joker used her that much, and he's that good at taking advantage of this person.
Yeah, I mean, I chose to read her in a similar way in that she is an academic with basically no real life experience. So she's like, well, I'm smarter than all these weirdos.
Exactly.
I'm sane.
I just came out of Harvard. I can beat all these guys can't trick me. Yeah, and I also just loved what a great setup with that Joan Leland character who I saw. We didn't do Harley's Holiday, but that was her first appearance. Where that's the one where Harley gets out on parole, and it's really just a Harley-centric one.
The ending is really good. Is that Batman saying "I had a bad day too" or whatever?
Yes, yeah.
It's a cute ending,
and it shows that is kind of like a seed for this episode too, of just having Batman show that he pities her. That he's just like, yeah, I know, and Joan Leland's in that one too. Just to know that they were colleagues. And that she was like, no, look, if you're going to work at Arkham, you need to hate every patient here, which is, that's a crazy thing to think in the real world of just like, oh, I hope people who work in mental institutions don't go in there saying like, you should hate all of them. They'd kill you if you could.
That's what the new Halloween movie teaches you, the 2018 one.
Yes, yeah.
That movie's not very good. I know people like it. So who plays Dr. Joan Leland? Suzanne Stone plays Dr. Joan Leland. She played this character one other time in the 1997 episode Double Talk, and this is her last role, period. I think she's still alive.
Okay.
So her first role was in 1975, and she had a recurring role on shows like Sanford, which was the sequel to Sanford and Son, and the daytime drama Texas. So those were her two really recurring roles, just a lot of bit parts between those and after that.
Yeah, didn't the Son just quit the show, and they're like, we just need Sanford. We don't need the Son.
Get rid of Lamont. Is that his name, the Son?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it is. So this could be an IMDb goof, but I don't think it is, because it just shows the direction her career went. It appears that she has gone on to become a researcher on Jeopardy.
Really?
She did it intermittently throughout her career, but it appears to have been on this job for a large portion of 2021. So that's there you go.
The interesting way the life of a character actor goes in Hollywood, man. I mean, Jeopardy, they all film it in LA, right? So I can see that happening. And that
they need researchers.
And that shows she's got the brains of a doctor, just like she comes off very well as a smarty pants in this episode too.
Also, one of the sick freaks in Arkham is Paul Dini,
the window licker. Yes,
who was also in the comic. So they just took that right from the comic.
That's always fun that Tim draws Dini as just this sicko. like in so many times, though. Tim even does it to himself of drawing him as like Tim had to actually play the guy making fun of him as a toy collector.
We just had Bruce Timm and Paul Dini in our last episode too.
Yeah,
drawn in as cartoon characters.
And in the first Harley and Ivy Gal Pals episode, it's Bruce Timm's design who says, "What are you gonna do? Spank us?" And he acts out a spanking. I was like, yeah, that's as horny as Bruce Timm.
That's his own fantasy.
And as a Harley Ivy fan, I really like that. This isn't about Harley and Ivy's friendship, but before she sees the Joker, her and Ivy make eye contact.
That's right. Yeah.
Which even in the extras for that book, Bruce Timm called them gal pals, which is the coded way of saying we can't write them as lesbians, but they are a couple. Like,
I forgot about that little the knowing glance between them. So,
love at first sight for those guys, but Joker, he's so perfect. He's just like, what a bad boy. Just like he can't lean up against the light post and be flicking a quarter, but basically the same deal.
He's like, new meat, fresh meat's here.
And he's whistling his own theme. Like, you can see if you're into bad boys like Harley is, or at least for Joker, why she's into Joker here,
And this act ends, she goes back to her office. There's a single flower in a vase on her desk, and there's a note attached that says, "Come down and see me sometime," from Jay. And she sniffs the flower and smiles, and we hear these psycho strings in the soundtrack, knowing like this is where it begins.
Oh man, the way she takes off her glasses and smells the rose, it's like there is something just so like sensual about it. It's really well, and what a great way of just expressing simply without words how she's truly infatuated with the Joker. Yeah.
And Act 2 begins, and she immediately goes down to see the Joker and confronts him because she knows he got out of his cell, and she's threatening to tell the guards, but he responds, "If you were really going to tell the guards, you would have done it already."
Yeah.
So he already knows. He's already broken her basically with this one act.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you think when she says, I can tell the guards, that's her trying to assert power, and instantly he's like, you have no power over me. I'm the one in control of this relationship.
And this is when we get the opening clip where the pun Harley Quinn is explained. And I like that they kind of have to do this, but then her response is, I get that all the time. I'm kind of sick of it.
Yeah, I've heard it. That's been my name my entire life. I've heard it. Like, if you ever meet someone with a name that seems like, have you ever heard this? Of course they've heard it before.
Oh, like Bob Mackey?
Yes, like perhaps Bob Mackey.
I think my relevance is now, outdone his at this point. Maybe. I need to make like 1,000 more podcasts.
He's not making any new dresses for these days, so
that's for all the kids out there who don't know what Harlequin is. And he says to Harley, "That name puts a smile on my face, and it makes me feel there's someone here I can relate to." And then he follows it up with someone I can tell all my secrets to.
And that's when that's when she stops and smirks. So again, that's the hubris on her part. She thinks like it's why you can't completely feel sorry for her, because you do feel sorry for her because Joker is using her and has turned her into a monster. But it all begins with her thinking she's tricking him. So she's a bad person too, or at least that shows that she's not the best person.
Yeah, and I like how it's more subtle in this when it's kind of underlined in the comic. I like how you can clearly tell she's out for to profit off of this new position, to say like, I want to profile these people and make money off of them. But there's nothing said outright from her own perspective.
But she's totally like, well, in the comic, I think it also had more distaste for pop psychologist. I think they even call her.
It was the era of Frasier. Speaking of Frasier,
hey, you know what? I never even thought about that. That era, making Arlene Sorkin a psychiatrist to the wife of the Frasier series showrunner. That's pretty funny.
And this comic came out in December of '93. Frasier started in fall of '93.
That's
so
right.
we held Frasier on the brain.
We were loving. He's still on our brains, all our brains.
Waiting for that Frasier reboot, but that no one's coming back for.
No, thank you. Yeah, no.
Oh, come now.
If they can't even get Niles for it,
what's he doing? Anyways, the Joker undergoes some therapy in our next clip.
It took me nearly 3 months to set up a session. I studied all his tricks and gimmicks and felt I was ready for anything.
My father used to beat me up pretty badly.
Anything except that.
Every time I got out of line, bam! Or sometimes I'd be just sitting there doing nothing. Pow! Pops tended to favor the grape, you see.
Uh-huh.
There was only one time I ever saw Dad really happy. He took me to the circus when I was 7. I still remember the clowns running around, dropping their pants. My old man laughed so hard, I thought he'd bust a gut. So the very next night, I ran out to meet him with his best Sunday pants around my ankles. Hi, Dad. Look at me. Zoop. I took a big pratfall and tore the crotch clean out of his pants. And then he broke my nose.
That's pretty shocking account of child abuse to have on a kid's cartoon. I couldn't
believe it.
I thought this cartoon aired later because it gets away with a lot more. No, it aired like at 9 or 9:30.
That's nuts. Yeah. It feels like Kids WB are just like, let's just burn this off. Like, wash our hands. We're not going to get any emails about it. But yeah. I knowing what was in the comic page when watching this the first time, I was like, they actually let him say that his abusive father beat him.
The only thing they cut out was him saying like Dad came home from the bar or Dad was an alcoholic. There are references in the Joker story to his dad drinking too much, and I think when he shows his dad his trick, his dad is drunk.
Yeah, but favors the grape, you see.
Yeah.
What a great... This whole sequence is such a great story because it feels like it could have been written in a 1930s movie too, like the way he tells the story.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I read the comic, I thought this circus story was like, oh, is this the Joker's origin now? How cliche, the circus and the clowns made him laugh and that's why he's a clown. That's why it's so clever, because it is a cliche and Joker's telling her a great lie that tricks her.
And he's tricking the viewer too, who I mean, it's played to trick you as well, thinking like, oh, this is where it's coming from in this series. I didn't know that.
Don't you feel bad for the Joker too? He's just, and I mean, too, this is perfect of like, this is the abusive boyfriend tactic, like from then on. If you tell a story about like, well, you know how I'm bad, well, it's actually because I'm a victim. Don't you feel bad for me? Like, and you know, but passing, even if you are a victim of abuse, lots of people who do abuse were abused themselves. That does not make their abuse okay. So,
and this, I don't know if this is a trait of the Joker, just being a liar, but then this would become a running gag in the Dark Knight, the 2008 movie.
Yes,
except they're not facial scars; they're emotional scars. He's talking about.
That's the bit. Once when I watched this, I was like, oh, I absolutely think Nolan or somebody else on that remembered these scenes of the Joker just lying about what his origin was, and usually involving some sad wife or father or mother, and just saying like, no, I got these scars. This is the same setup. Like, they just lifted it from this.
Yeah.
I feel it's sure too.
I haven't seen that movie since I saw it in the theater once.
Oh,
and
man.
Isn't like the first time he explains it, you're supposed to believe him as the viewer?
the
Like,
very
oh,
first
that's
time.
how it happens. And then every other time he tells a different story.
Yes, yeah, and you're like, wait, what is this? This guy's so chaotic. No, I'm surprised you've only seen it once, because I have literally watched it like 20 times.
20 times?
Well, it did come out on DVD when I worked at a video store. And I could put it on. So chalk up about a dozen of those to that.
Okay.
But also was like, anytime I would be flipping through the channel on TV during like holidays with family, I'd be like, oh, well, The Dark Knight's on. I guess I'll just watch the whole thing.
That will eat up 3 hours with commercials.
Yes.
4 hours, who knows?
Well, I at least once where I've had it turned on and it's like on TBS or TNT, and then a commercial starts. I'm like, well, I know where my Blu-ray is. I'll just put it in and just watch it without commercials.
Maybe I'll watch it again one day.
It's really great. It's
the one I liked. I remember liking.
Oh, it's the best.
Everyone
one,
out there, bully me into watching it again.
Also, I now was watching this with the view of like, Joker is an abusive pickup artist fuckboy. Him. What a pickup artist move, that part of his story, like, hey, I'm just telling a fun story, and then he takes his pants off of like, what, it's just a fun story, you know, I'm just but he's actually like getting more like sexually suggestive with her. And they even like, in the comics it's more clear in a single cell, but like as he's taking his pants down, like she blushes a little bit, like, ooh, like, so yeah, but
he's escalating.
He is, man. Soon he'll be in safe touching or negging or all of the things I've heard secondhand about the pickup artist
I mean,
world.
the staging would not be as interesting if they did this, but honestly, the Joker should be chained up getting this done to him.
Yeah,
you can't trust him alone in a room with one other person.
I know. The layout of it, though, is so perfect.
Yeah,
just him on the couch and her sitting in the chair, especially because it's setting it up that starkly. When then it reverses, it's so much more powerful, too. Yeah.
And the Joker explains after talking about how his dad broke his nose. That's the downside of comedy. You're always taking shots from folks who don't get the joke, like his dad or, of course, Batman.
And what a great line by him, too, of like he knows that a average psychiatrist he's giving her the connections to make. And the connections he's giving her are, if I explain to you an abusive father story, and then I say, or like Batman, then you make the easy connection of, oh, he associates Batman with his abusive father.
Yeah.
Like, that's armchair psychiatrist 101, and he knows that.
And we see Harley's legal pad where she writes down everything they really can't say on the air, which is abusive childhood, alcoholic father, beaten when prank went wrong, 3 days in hospital. So I think in the comic, the Joker says that's what landed him in the hospital.
Exactly. Yeah. They it's funny you can write it down.
Yeah.
Maybe they think like, well, the kids who can't read, they'd be the most scarred by it if they heard it. So you can write it down. And yeah, I also love that in her flashbacks, like she's seeing the version of the story that Batman or that Joker tells her of like, oh yeah, the Batman is like picking up the Joker and throws him himself into the vat of acid. Like, yep, Batman did it. It's the Joker was just a victim of Batman.
Now I'm thinking of this. We talked about it earlier as a criticism of psychiatry at the time, because it feels like, it was the Bill Clinton tough on crime. Like even the left, by that I mean the Democrats.
Yes.
We're like, well, no, we lock you up forever.
You're a super predator.
And it's like, oh, you're a victim of circumstance. Oh, you were brought up the wrong way, broken home, blah, blah, blah. Go to jail.
Well, that's why with Joker, it's like, no, he's just a liar. Like, he's like everybody who says they're a victim of happenstance, they're just lying and evil.
I wonder if they've changed their stance by now. But
you know what? You're right about that. Yes.
Batman is not known for its positive portrayal of crime or people who commit it or mentally ill people as well.
It's about a rich guy who teams up with the cops to beat up the mentally ill.
Yeah.
Like that's when you get down to it.
What are we doing on this show?
We're grandizing the wrong person here.
So Harley's conclusion is that the Joker is a tortured soul crying out for love and acceptance. And then, like you said, Henry, we see various Joker moments. We see Batman throwing him into the acid that gave him his clown-like appearance. I don't think that's ever explained in the show, but I think in the show he's just a guy with makeup. He's not like Jack Nicholson, who was...
So definitely in this flashback, him in the vat of acid and looking at the mirror, like that's them taking off from the stuff that's in the Burton movie. But in the Beware the Creeper episode, they do treat that as Batman, as Joker's origins.
I didn't rewatch that one for this.
Because that's how the Creeper is born, because he also falls into the acid. Like he's a journalist telling the story about it, and Joker's mad that he's doing it. But I think that's the only time they say that he actually did have the Jack Nicholson origin. And all the others, they treat it like he just was... In Mask of the Phantasm, you see that he used to be a regular guy who was just like a gangster's hitman.
Coin flipping gangster.
Yes, yeah. Which I guess also makes him more of an attractive fuckboy. I think too, people always say about the casting. I've seen people complain about how the original show cast the Harley as just this victim and how it's, this ugly toxic relationship that they turn into funny. But the show wants you to root for her to leave too. Like even this far back, when they even do episodes like Harley and Ivy or Harley's Holiday, they want you as a viewer to think, I wish Harley would leave him too. Like they want you to want her to leave. They are not saying it's good she's in this
that's why the ending is like funny, but also in a super dark way where she learns nothing from all of this. Yes, and we see Batman giving the Joker his origin story. We see the Joker shooting up Gotham National Bank with a huge machine gun, and then we see Batman looming over the Joker and beating him up, and that's when Harley describes him as the self-righteous Batman determined to make life miserable for my angel. And that will be echoed, the word angel will be echoed later in the episode. The final line she says.
And this is another bit where it works slightly better on the comic page because you don't hear audio, but just the positioning of her that she's talking to like seemingly her own psychiatrist, and you can tell she's on the couch. That is such an amazing reveal that she's talking to the Joker the whole time. Just to show Joker has so fully broken her and made her his own that he's like, now their roles have completely reversed. Like literally their positions have reversed. He's now in charge of her.
Let's hear the roles reversed in our next clip.
Pretty crazy, huh?
Not at all. As a dedicated, career-oriented young woman, you felt the need to abstain from all amusement and fun. It's only natural you'd be attracted to a man who could make you laugh again.
I knew you'd understand.
Anytime.
Then there was that horrible week when he escaped. The poor thing was on the run, alone and frightened. I was so worried.
They've got him.
And I love when she's talking about the Joker being alone and afraid. The paper, the headline says, body count rises.
Oh my God.
Joker. Yeah. The Joker is way more vicious in this set of episodes.
And you know what? That does make it more like a Harvey Kurtzman kind of Mad Magazine thing of like that this character saying like, I feel so bad for this guy. And the guy she feels bad for is like, has murdered a dozen people so far. Like, God.
I think one of the choices they make in the cartoon version, I don't know if it's for censorship reasons, but in the comic version, when Batman brings the Joker back, he's also beaten up.
Yeah.
And in the cartoon version, he's not. But I like that more as her memories. Like, oh, he's so much more powerful than the Joker. It's so mean to pick on him.
Yeah, I do love the posing of the beaten up Batman to let you know, like, wow, a really awesome episode of Batman just ended, and he's dropping off the Joker. But yeah, you're right. It works better that Batman is untouched. Though in the flashback too, they cut the bit from the comic where you see Batman just reacting like, what the hell? Like to Harley, but it's not really needed. But yeah, you can see it from her vantage point of just that. Oh, here's the Batman showing up after having horribly beaten this poor defenseless man. Like, but that puts you in her headspace of like, this is why this poor woman has given up her entire life for this guy. They even get away with a bloody nose on there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of blood in this episode.
Everybody gets like a little blood trickle in this episode coming out of their mouth or nose. And this is when she becomes Harley Quinn. There's no like gamma rays or accident. She goes out, she sees the Joker injured inside of his cell, and then she goes out, raids a novelty store to become Harley Quinn. They have all the Harley Quinn accessories on sale. It's like a Hot Topic, I guess. And then I like how the proprietor is first excited, like, wow, she's buying a lot. And then he basically just gets ripped off and kicked out the door.
I love her like 1,000-yard stare as she just walks past him because she's just broke, like she snapped. She's going like, you know what? Time to throw away my entire life. Like it's one thing, her doing all this stuff with the Joker. That's one thing. And Joker only wanted to like use her. Who knows? I definitely don't think he thought she'll become my sidekick and break me out. He probably just at first saw her as just like a plaything. Like, oh, this woman wants to interview me. Let's see if I can just break her. Like this will be fun until I break out.
I mean,
again.
Batman says like he saw you as a hired hand the second he laid eyes on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's Harley Quinn. She breaks back into Arkham. She knocks a guy out. The guy running the toll booth or whatever with a rubber chicken with a brick in it.
I love that. A loaded rubber chicken. Yeah. Like she's got her sense of humor right from the start too.
And she's in shadows until the reveal, but we can clearly see she's in the costume.
Yeah,
she's in the Harley Quinn outfit.
Oh man, the hero shot of her, like it's straight off the comic page, but her after smashing the glass to get to Joker, her say hello to your brand new Harley Quinn. It's like that is an amazing just hero shot reveal of her. Yeah.
And I just like the Joker watching all of this happen. He's horribly injured. He's in his bed.
Yes.
And she just puts like the bomb on the glass.
Yeah, and he's like,
somehow
what the
does
hell?
not get murdered by all the flying glass.
You know, that should have killed him. Yeah, you're right. But I like the Joker. There's a little more of that in the comic page, but during their whole escape, Joker is just like cackling, laughing because he's like, "Wow, I'm pretty lucky. I didn't expect all of this, but let's go with the flow here."
Yes, let's hear Harley being born in our next clip.
Knock, knock, Puddin'. Say hello to your new, improved Harley Quinn. It seemed like we would live happily ever after. But that'll never happen as long as there's a Batman around to torment my puddin'.
So yes, Batman is the problem here in this relationship.
Yeah, she's like, oh, obviously everything's perfect except for Batman. Like that explains why a normal woman would constantly be trying to kill Batman, which, there's even a tiny bit of that. Even this is good, like bookends to our series, like we said when we did Joker's Favor. Like in Joker's Favor, they have that one little scene of Harley and Bat saying, like, I know what you're thinking. This poor girl falling into this. This is pretty much the same, like just a bigger version of that scene.
And except if they knew Harley well enough, she wouldn't have any regrets about working with the Joker.
Yes, yeah. She wouldn't say like, beauty school's starting to look good. That's a funny one-off line for just a character you don't have long-term plans for. But this tragic origin that makes her forever. Like, she'd just be remembered. If without this origin story, Harley would just be remembered as like, oh, that was a funny henchman for Joker in a few episodes. This makes her eternal. This elevates her to like, if you've got a good origin story, then you're a real Batman rogue.
That's true. Once you're important enough to have your origin story told,
yes,
and with Batman who barely features in it, really.
That's just like on Naruto or other shonen anime where they're just like, oh, you thought I was an unimportant fight? Well, learn my origin story. Now you'll know that I'm actually an important enemy.
And this is when Harley becomes a liar, because we cut to the bat signal in the sky and we see Batman, Gordon, and Bullock all watching a video, and Harley is on the video asking for help because the Joker's gone off his nut. He's going to blow up the entire city. And to make things even more serious, she takes off her mask and says, it's not funny anymore. I need your help.
I love the posing of that. She's like, please, and she even just goes back into her old voice instead of her Harley voice. And then I wish they were cute pages in the comic, but I understand why they cut them. But in all her fantasy shots of what her future life would be with Joker, there's some really good jokes in there.
It's funny that like Paul Dini always goes back to Harley imagining like a sitcom lifestyle for them, like an old timey one. That's what we see in the Batman Beyond movie.
And in this case, they're married by Jerry Lewis officiating, and Buster and Babs are hanging. Like that's such a great joke they got.
And like
there.
The little Harley Quinn girl says, "Oh, JJ poisoned me," and Harley says, "You just poisoned him back."
Yeah, oh man, and also like them as old people, like basically it's on Golden Pond with Peter Fonda.
Except they're about to have sex.
Yes, I still want to fool around, honey. Oh, so good.
And Batman goes off to meet Harley. The plan is to meet her on the docks, and she'll give Batman the Joker's plan. In the comic version, he's like communicating with Gordon and Bullock about what's going on. Like, oh, she's alone. She looks afraid.
And he says he's watched her for like 30 minutes. Like, it makes Batman not seem as gullible as he is in this, but in this case, like, Harley did a good job acting, and Batman falls for this too, because I think he always hopes, like, is just like Poison Ivy does. Is she finally coming to her senses and leaving the Joker?
Yeah.
If so, I want to support that and help this woman.
He should know this is a trap, but he's like, no, I want to believe in her. Yes. Somebody has to reform in this damn town.
Can this finally be the one person who reforms? But Batman doesn't realize he's in a comic book that can never end, and thus no one can reform.
So he basically appears in front of her, like just teleports in, scares her, and just says, "Open it," because she's got the briefcase. And this
he doesn't trust that briefcase, wants to give it her, lets her do it.
And we've all heard of Joker's trick. Well, here is Harley's trick.
Okay.
I want Gordon to see these. If what you say is true, the police will...
No one turns stoolie on me and lives!
Sweet dreams, sucker.
He gets hypodermic from behind. And I will say this Joker, so what happens is it's not really the Joker. It's a Joker kind of mannequin that talks and fires a machine gun and I guess can pilot a boat. Or the boat was sent off by somebody else. Who knows?
I guess it's like on autopilot. You just say, turn on the boat and it runs. Yeah, you know what? She really does need assistance to pull this.
I think she just went to the goon store and got one goon.
I guess she knows a lot of goons. She'd be like, hey, you want to help me for the afternoon with this?
I think it's more effective in the comic because I believe it's just one panel or it's very limited. They have to show more of this in the animated version. And I love how it looks on the painted cover that that Bruce Timm did for the original release of this comic.
Yeah. Of him just in shadow, this scary Joker shooting a machine gun from his thing. Yeah, it's... and when she get a recording of the Joker saying that too,
she hired another goon to do the voice.
But yeah, that Batman trusted her too much. I also, we did that jury episode too, or the trial episode, and in that one, she also knocks Batman unconscious. Like, Bruce Timm really is into Harley Quinn knocking Batman unconscious.
She's secretly way better than the Joker.
Yes, yeah, that's the clear point of the third act, which is, if you don't give a crap about, making it the perfect death or all of the drama, she just cuts to the chase. She's like dispassionately going like, yeah, Batman, I killed you. Like this, the point, and Batman will just say it, but the point is she's way better at this than the Joker is if she just focused.
And that's how that's how Batman breaks the Joker's brain, by explaining like, this plan is actually awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So yeah, this is what happens. We come back to Act 3. Batman is strung up over this tank full of water filled with piranhas. Harley is just nonchalantly sipping soda at the bar.
I love her in a little grape soda and that thing. Yeah, it's a cute like teeny, like she's a 50s teeny bopper, just over on her elbows over the edge, drinking out of the bottle. Yeah.
And this place that this set piece takes place is called Aquacade, but it's based on some place called the Paradise, which was a tacky tropical theme restaurant downstairs from WB's animation office, and that's where Paul Dini pitched the story to Bruce Timm.
If we ever go back to Burbank, we got to see if that place is still open, and we got to eat there just to know, like, this is where the Mad Love was born.
Did it survive 30 years, like 3 economic depressions and a pandemic?
Maybe not. But we've got pals in Warner Animation. Let's ask him.
What did it become?
Yeah.
So Batman is just coming to. He's groggily asking her questions, and Harley reveals her ruse. And it's only just the two of them there. The Joker is not involved at all, according to her.
Yeah, which Batman can't believe it. He's like, where's the Joker? Nah, it's just us. Like, she also just... Batman is ready for like, all right, where's Joker? Where's the big speech? This is time for the Joker speech. She's like, nah, I'm just, she just so relaxedly, her interaction with Batman in this death trap is so great.
And I mean, we'll get to it, but Batman knows like, oh, I need to get the Joker involved because he'll fuck this up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Batman keeps it so cool the rest of the scene, but internally he's thinking like, I'm definitely dead unless I bring the Joker in here right now.
And this is when she explains how she finally cracked the death of 100 smiles, in that she can't get the fish to smile, so she hangs Batman upside down so it looks like they're smiling.
I love her saying like, and the victim, that's you. You see him all upside down.
Clever.
Brilliant.
And I like how they do this more in the cartoon, because in the comic, there's a panel of her, I think there's no dialogue, of her like turning the blueprint around and going like, aha.
Yeah.
But it's only until the explanation of Batman that we get her idea, like her working through the process.
I love her just saying like, yeah, I figured out this perfect bit. Joker couldn't. I cracked the case. Like, and just her whole interaction with Batman, just her saying like, Bats, it's not personal. I got to kill you. Then I can be happy with the Joker.
Yeah,
you understand.
My husband is too distracted by you.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
To have sex with me and to start a family.
It's time to gather loved ones together for all the holidays' best spread. Lynn's has great prices on all your favorite Thanksgiving items. From delicious turkey with all the fixings to mashed potatoes and yummy pies. We have everything you need to create your perfect Thanksgiving dinner. Whether it's cooking the traditional meal, completely store-bought, or a combination of both, your best holiday meal starts here. Learn more and start shopping today at linsgrocery.com. Lynn's, where delicious begins.
So up next, Batman breaks Harley's brain.
You and the Joker?
Ryder Rooney! I've never seen you laugh before. I don't think I like it. Cut it out! You're giving me the creeps!
You little fool. The Joker doesn't love anything except himself. Wake up, Harleen. He had you pegged for hired help the minute you walked into Arkham.
That's not... No! No! He told me things, secret things he never told anyone!
Was it his line about the abusive father? Or the one about the runaway mom? He's gained a lot of sympathy with that one.
Stop it! You're making me confused!
What was it he told that one parole officer? Oh, yes. There was only one time I ever saw Dad really happy. He took me to the ice show when I was 7.
Circus. He said it was the circus.
He's got 1 million of them, Harley.
You're wrong! My boy does love me! He does! You're the problem!
It's
great reading by Conroy because he's
so good.
contemptuous but also full of pity when he goes, "You little fool."
He's just like, you know what? I got to just be straight with you, girl. Like that. No, this is one of Conroy's best Batman speeches.
Yeah.
Like,
and we started the series with like one of the few times Batman laughs, and we're ending it
Yes.
with the most laughter. It's not even just like trying to. It's not a trick. He's like, well, this is hilarious.
No, and Return of the Joker also he gets doused with Joker toxin, but it's Conroy laughing again. It's all, trading on the unnaturalness of Bruce Wayne laughing. But this case, I just love it so much. Like this is Batman saying, you think you know your boyfriend? I know him way better than you, and that guy's an asshole. Like just that he knows that Batman did what Harley thought she was doing when interviewing him. Batman actually does have a perfect psychological profile on Joker, which is that he lies to everybody about his past to gain sympathy or use them. So that he said, like, oh, what was that one parole officer? Like, that parole officer probably is like 20 Harleys ago, like got murdered and something. But just that Batman knows everything. I just love that. The Batman knows the Joker so well. He's like, I've heard every lie the Joker tells. Like, I know it very well, and he tricked you, Harley.
And he just is breaking her by saying, well, you're not important to him at all.
Oh, and just, God, the shot of her saying, like, he said it was the circus. Like, God, it's, though, from a certain point of view, isn't Batman just saying to her whatever he needs to say to get what he wants out of her, just like the Joker did?
Yes, but it's the truth.
It is the truth.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's to save his life and, save the city and continue living and doing good stuff.
And save her from like a murder rap.
Yeah. But in a way, he's kind of like the Joker here,
But she doesn't want to hear it at all. She marches back to the handle that activates the trap, and she says, and now you're going to die and make everything right.
Yeah.
And her eyes are full of tears. Again, it's a kid's cartoon. It's on at 9:30 in the morning saying, you're going to die.
Yes,
is a big move.
Oh, and again, just Batman's other speech of saying like, well, you're not going to prove to him I'm dead. Sure, she looks at his belt. He's like, yeah, I guess you got the belt, but is that really enough? Is he really going to believe you? He's got to see me die. What a great way to trick her into doing it.
And I like that just drop line to let you know, well, here's where his belt is.
Yes,
and obviously she's smart enough to have taken it off of him.
Oh man, just the way he says like, scraps of bones and cloth, like he's not going to believe that. And just the look on her face, like looking back and forth, she's like, oh no, he's right. Like you can see the math. She's doing it all in her head, like logically thinking, crap, he's right. Joker's never going to believe me.
And meanwhile, the Joker is hard at work while Batman is strung up. He's looking at all of these different blueprints, pacing back and forth. That's when we get the line, to Riddler.
One of my all-time, I've said it I think I've said it on this podcast so many times, but I love him saying
you were right.
Riddler.
I forgot that was in this. And there is a very fine line between a Riddler plan and a Joker plan.
Yes.
They both involve clues, but one of them is funnier.
Which Joker is noticing there. He's like, this is why I can never do these things. It's too Riddler. I can never give too many clues.
And that's when the phone rings. He answers it, and we hear from his end, you have who? Tied up where?
Oh, man, I love his half listening of like, Batman, you don't say. What? Like that, yeah.
And this is when the Joker mobile speeds off into the distance. In the comic, you can see he's actually hit somebody with his car.
Yes, yeah. And this is where it's the one scene I really wish was in this of just Joker, to further show that Joker is a toxic man and an awful person. His imagination of why he doesn't want Harley killing Batman, he's imagining Riddler, Two-Face, and Penguin all saying like, oh, did you hear Joker's girlfriend killed Batman?
Yeah.
What a loser. Oh, hey, look, it's Mr. Harley Quinn. And that it's all making Joker doubt his manhood if she kills
That's
Batman.
true. A lot of awful guys, they don't like when their partners, their female partners, are more successful than them.
Yeah.
And they just are resentful, or they can't let it happen. They sabotage things.
I know that they sabotage, like either they just let that's the too far for Joker here. He's like, she's going to succeed where I failed. Like it's very clear in the next scene, but it's maybe too jokey for this moment, I can see, but just him, or also it would add a lot of money to the budget if they had to get in those 3 voice actors for that one moment. But
what's Paul Williams up to?
But it is so funny seeing the Joker imagine like, oh, the guys at the club are going to laugh at me that my girlfriend killed Batman.
That's why I need to win the Eisner of podcasting.
Yeah.
Or also always be inferior.
You'll always be in her shadow.
That Eisner's mocking me from her shelf. We cut back to Harley, who says, nerds to you. And when I told Mr. J what I was doing, he was so thrilled he could hardly speak. And then
so
we get the Joker busting in with Harley.
Oh man, just his hands pushing the door open and screaming. Such a great pose. It's straight off the comic page. So good.
It is a better pose in the comic. I rewatched the animated series. Obviously, they can't do as good of a job as someone sitting down to draw one panel, but it's still effective in the show. But man, that is an amazing pose that Bruce Timm drew.
Yes, yeah, man. And just this, again, is when Joker becomes like, this captures an abusive partner so perfectly that Harley is saying, but you said all these things. This is what you wanted, right? And then he just moves the goalpost and explains, no, this is why you're wrong. You did everything I said I wanted, but you're wrong. And this is how, like, nothing is good enough. Joker, again, it's painful if you've been, like they say in their talk about Adini and Tim in the comic, of just, if you know what being mad love is like, this is very painful. Like, it's so perfectly expressed here with Joker.
And Harley's in denial. She does not read anger on his face. She runs over to greet him like, oh, you'll never believe what happened. And that's when we get the slap. And you know what? I think it's more effective in animation because we have the Joker drawing back his hand and we pan away from it as he slaps her.
Yeah, and see Batman's reaction.
Yeah, it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
And this is like violence that intimate is still pretty shocking in a kid's cartoon.
Yeah.
And it's tasteful. It's tasteful because they cut away, but you see the hand drawing back.
So it's an interesting choice. Marvel has had this thing too where a couple of superheroes in an old like story from the 70s, there's an example with the Ant-Man character Hank Pym. He, in a time of distress in a story where he's like literally losing his mind, he backhands his wife, the Wasp, and that has been with him forever. And people think like, oh, Hank Pym's not the main character of the Ant-Man movies because everybody knows him as the guy who hit his wife. And
yet this guy has an eatery at Disneyland.
That's the thing.
The domestic abuse hot dog stand.
Well, see that it is Pym's Kitchen. Well, that's not in the movies now, but but meanwhile with Joker can do all of this stuff. Like in The Killing Joke by Alan Moore, he essentially, he does sexually assault Batgirl like Barbara Gordon. He has all this stuff. It doesn't make him any less of a sellable Lego of a main character and stuff. It's crazy that Joker can go to the darkest of places, but they can still also put him in all of the kid stuff too. You know, Joker is that flexible of a character, I guess.
And it's I guess it's fitting that's the last episode because this is just the ugliest he's been.
Yes, yeah. You got a little taste of this in Joker's relationship with her, but this is, if you look at it this closely, the Joker could only be this kind of boyfriend to her. He cannot be loving or caring in any way. Then he wouldn't be the Joker.
He's got to keep tearing her down.
Yeah.
Like in this next clip.
But Puddin', I don't understand. Don't you want to finally get rid of Batman?
Only if I do it, idiot.
But it's still your plan, see? Everything just like you said. Except I hung the guy upside down so he'd see their little frowns as little smiles. Now it all works.
Except you had to explain it to me. If you have to explain a joke, there is no joke.
Now, calm down, Puddin'.
You've forgotten what I told you a long time ago. One of the painful truths of comedy. You always take shots from folks who just don't get the joke. And don't call me Puddin'.
That's another shocking moment.
Yeah.
Sorry to repeat myself so much, but I was thinking if this was like a noir psychodrama from like the 40s or 50s, she would die.
Yes.
And the Joker would be caught and they just say, you killed the only woman who ever loved you. And he'd be taken away by the police. But they obviously can't kill this marketable character. They can't kill her on a kid show. But effectively, this should be her death. Like the most ironic death ever and tragic death.
That after doing everything the Joker wanted, it actually pushed him far enough to just be like, you know what? I'm done with you. Just like, you're dead. I've had enough of your shit. I've used you in all the ways I can. I can't use you anymore.
And even when we see her just broken body in the alley with blood coming out of her mouth, she blames herself.
Oh, my fault.
Yeah.
I mean, what's painful too is they were writing it then, they were basing it on the real world. Like you would hear so many stories of people in abusive relationships who just even when the person injures you horribly, the victim just says, it was my fault, I must have done something,
or I made him mad, or I shouldn't have talked to him after this.
Well, obviously I should have known. I should have talked to him after like his team lost the Super Bowl. Like, it's my fault, but that's what Joker groomed her into thinking. It's also painfully realistic. That's what makes it a memorable story, but also shocking to be in a, again, like you said, 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning kind of cartoon.
And I mean, there's a lot more blood in the comic, and I think I keep wanting to call him Professor Gordon. I don't know why. Sorry, Commissioner Gordon and like Montoya and Bullock find her in the alley, and they're like, "Oh my god!"
It makes it sadder. Yeah, I think it's Montoya who gets closest. Like, to have another woman look at her, I think makes it even more painful to see. But yeah, and also the Coco and Dong Yang, they don't have the biggest budgets for these. Certainly not as big as it was in the first season. They're told to do slow-mo fall with shattered glass all around, but they make it work.
They're like, we'll do 4 seconds of slow-mo, and that's all they need to sell it as. Like, your brain buys like, the entire scene was slow motion.
And I guess Tim thought that there was a prominent like stuffed swordfish on the wall at that restaurant, and so that's why he has a swordfish be her like defense mechanism against the Joker.
That's also sad because she's supposed to be in love with him, but she realizes like, I need something to defend myself with.
And
it's just like, you feel like she's been in this position before.
Oh well, yeah, she's like recognizing before, he's talking this way, he might almost kill me, I better, just as a precaution, just get this swordfish between us.
And this is when the Joker at first is going to let Batman go, because it's like, well, this isn't my plan, and let's just forget this whole thing ever happened. All right,
see you later at the store.
And then he stops himself and realizes like, this is a pretty good opportunity, and he comes back and he puts a gun just to Batman's head, and that's Harley's original plan, like, just shoot him,
which he had a great big speech about, like, you're so wrong, and now he's like, you know what, bat in the hand is worth 2 in the belfry. I guess you're gonna go out with a laugh after all. Ha ha ha.
But Batman has been in this position before, because as soon as the Joker fires, he kicks his arms up into the air, and then that's when the bullet shatters the piranha glass. Obviously there's some comedic opportunities here because they're flying out of the tank and biting the Joker on the butt.
I love, an old butt bite, which after the Joker, as far as you know as a viewer, murdered his girlfriend in the height of abusiveness, now it's a silly joke of like, I'm getting bitten in the butt by piranhas. Hey.
And Batman's kind of silly after seemingly the death of Harley Quinn, but Batman's like hopping across the floor while being chained up, gets the lockpick in his teeth, and that's how he frees himself.
That's so great. With his teeth, he pulls the lockpick out of his belt and then frees himself, which, once you see that Batman's down, you're like, oh yeah, he's going to be free of those chains like in 8 seconds. That's Batman for you.
And that's when Batman chases the Joker up all these flights of stairs, and I think Gordon and Bullock and the rest are there in the comic too. They're with Batman, but Batman goes off on his own after this next part.
There is a funny bit in the comic where Joker's going to pull out his gun, and then Gordon says, look out, he's got a fish, and Joker had a fish replace his gun, and he's like, oh crap, my gun's gone.
And they chase him to the edge of the roof of the building. The Joker jumps, he grabs onto the railing of the building, and it snaps off, and we hear a blood-curdling scream. Then we pan down, he's on the back of a train and says, made you look.
Oh, so good. So good. What a little stinker that Joker is, man.
And he continues to taunt Batman, who, unfortunately for the Joker, teleports behind him.
She almost had me, Arms and legs chained, dizzy from the blood rushing to my head. I had no way out other than convincing her to call you. I knew your massive ego would never allow anyone else the honor of killing me. Though I have to admit she came a lot closer than you ever did.
Puddin'.
Ooh. Yeah, and this is the beginning of a pretty brutal 20-second fight, and everything from the comic, how it's staged, plays out here, including the Joker just pulling out a knife. I'm just going to stab this guy to death.
On the page, when you can read at your own pace, the posing feels even more impactful because it lasts as long as you want to imagine it. They integrated into animation very well, especially with, in the comic page, Batman hand claps his ears, boxes his ears. And he does it in the comic cartoon too, but you do have to have that flash of white for the impact.
Yeah.
Which still is like, you're still teaching little kids to do that in a fight with their brother, to just like, oh yeah, I should just smash him in the ears when I'm fighting my brother.
But yeah, it's not even like a silly, funny sword or whatever. It's like, I'm just going to stab you with this knife I found on the streets.
Yeah. Which also then is when he finally makes contact with that knife in Return of the Joker.
Right.
But yeah, I love Batman rubbing it in of just like explaining, oh yeah, she definitely was going to kill me. I had to trick her into bringing you here because I know you'd fuck it up. And you know what? She got closer than you ever did. Put in and calling him the name he hates being called. Like, God damn, what a great just rub-in by Batman, and just his little smirk when he says it. Like, that's why it breaks the Joker, because Joker's like, you got a joke on me. Like, you asshole.
The Batman's scoring off all these people in this episode.
I know, yeah.
And blood is trickling down his chin after this next scene because he blocks the knife. He just bats the Joker off the train. The Joker falls into a smokestack. He's seemingly dead. And everyone is bleeding in this episode.
But even the people on the news afterwards are like, yeah, Joker always survives this stuff. No body, Joker's not dead, you know?
I forgot the ending, and of course, Batman Beyond exists, and that movie exists, but I thought, before this epilogue, did they just kill Harley Quinn and the Joker for their last episode? Because I forgot how the ending went,
What? I mean,
I think they want to fool you, right?
They do, yeah. They want you to think, because it would be the perfect ending of like, Joker's dead and Harley's finally free. What a great ending. And that's why to build it up so well like that is why Dini is so good, because he and Tim, that they let you think, no more madness, everything's fine, Harley's at least free because Batman saved her, and then boom, no, it's not. Man, that even joke, Batman in this episode, he really is the third wheel in a bad relationship. Like, he's the person who's in his own way saying, like, girl, you got to get out of here. Like, you're in a bad place.
It is a weird love triangle, I guess.
Yes, yeah, because Joker is in love
Definitely.
with Batman. I mean, and hearing Batman say, like, Joker doesn't love anyone except himself. Like, yeah, but I think Batman is lying to himself a little bit there. Joker's in love with Batman.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
Let's hear our final clip of this series.
Though the Joker has been notorious for resurfacing when least expected, it seems unlikely that he has survived his latest brush with Batman.
Never again. No more obsession. No more craziness. No more Joker. I finally see that slime for what he is. A murderous, manipulative, irredeemable... angel.
Oh, that last, that music there, that last up there, like the music was saying, she's finally cured, like that little up, like, oh nope, she's not.
And
like,
this plays out better in the cartoon version. There's a lot more dialogue from Harley in this, and also the other Doctor has a few words to say, kind of like a real "I told you so" kind of maneuver.
Yeah, it doesn't work as well with that "I told you so" because it doesn't let Harley. It's better to be inside Harley's mind to know that she almost was free. Like, that makes it more tragic.
Yeah.
She's telling herself, yes, I see it all so clearly now. This is who the Joker is. And then the one rose gift brings her back. She's like, oh, actually, no, I was wrong. He is the perfect little angel again. Instead, in the comic, to have Leland be there to just be like, see, didn't I tell you what was going to happen to you? And like, I like it better that it's just her journey.
It's more economical, more effective.
Also, in the comic page, instead of saying an angel, she's like, what did it feel like? And she says, it felt like a kiss. That's a reference to the 1962 pop song by the Crystals, He Hit Me and It Felt Like a Kiss.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is an intentionally tragic story of a woman in an abusive relationship and how she justifies herself to herself. It's meant to be a sad song, not a happy song. But though the song is produced by Phil Spector, adds a bit more darkness to it.
No, I was surprised to see that this wraps up so nicely that it's different in the comic, the dialogue, and I didn't know that was a reference to a song.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those like saddest song list kind of songs. I like it better of her just going back like he's an angel, like boom, all he had to do was get her back, and also because the endless cycle of these stories, Harley can't really leave him for this world. She always needs to be with him, but
not until she gets her own series in 20 years.
That's what's great. Her getting her own series actually is when she can finally be independent again and not be Joker's sidekick. And yeah, that is my preferred way of seeing Harley Quinn now as a character. I like that. The idea that Harley Quinn used to be Joker's sidekick. I think that is an important part of her origin, is that she was in a toxic relationship with Joker, but the Harley that has new adventures now today is somebody who overcame a bad relationship and is now navigating the waters of what is my life without the Joker. And, sometimes she relapses. Sometimes the Joker comes back in her life and convinces her to do one more mission. But most of the time she lives her own life. And sometimes she dates Poison Ivy. Sometimes she doesn't, but that's what's interesting about Harley.
It's a rich tapestry, in other words.
I really didn't like when Suicide Squad, the first one, came out in 2016. Hot Topic was selling all this stuff of like Harley and Joker. What a classic romance, and they were sold as like they were Jack Skellington and
Sally. Yeah,
like they were being sold the same, and tons of fans, including me, were thinking like, this is not how you sell Harley and Joker to today's youth.
I mean, people read them the wrong way because I see that memed all the time where it's just like, I'm the Joker, I'm psycho, my wife's a crazy bitch, she's Harley Quinn.
Yes, it's like, no, this is all wrong. No, I'm sorry. I mean, look, Skellington and Sally aren't the healthiest relationship through that movie either, but both know they made a mistake and they're fine in the end,
Yes, and this just shows like what's a cycle that she'll never break free from, really.
Yeah, which is what I like in the Harley show that we did a What a Cartoon About. It's all about what she does when she breaks up with the Joker.
And this is the last episode of Batman. And again, I curse you, Batman Beyond. You took this from us. No, it's a fine show. But look at how good it was when it ended. It's so tragic.
Yeah. It's, the comebacks they did, they're always good, but it's never as good at Mystery of the Batwoman's all right. Basically, the finale of this series that they did in Return of the Joker, a great one episode of Batman. But they've done so many things that try to recapture the magic, but they can't really. I much prefer when they do the Justice League show as its own show and a really good riff on the super stories, and not trying to be like, oh, it's a Batman noir story. No, this is Batman having sci-fi adventures with his costumed pals, But this was a really special thing, and I think it's great for as far as last episodes go, and I like to consider this the last episode, to take their greatest comic story that they hadn't adapted and then adapting it feels like a perfect full circle. Yeah. Especially because the Harley was invented for the series, so ending with her origin story is also a perfect ribbon to tie it off.
I guess it's better to go out on top than to continue and then just have people regret that you're still on the air.
Yeah, and their budget would keep getting cut, and Pokemon would have killed it anyway. You'd have to see even more commercials of Bruce Wayne going like, Pikachu, he's a powerful
I want all of those. I want to see Pinky in the Brain finding Golbat or something. I don't know. There's a lot of those out there.
Oh yeah, those it's amazing that the Spielberg team played ball. I'm surprised that Ruger and his guys weren't just like, we're not touching this Pokemon bullshit.
Yeah, promote the thing that's going to kill you.
Yep.
But yes, thank you everyone for subscribing and listening. And we really appreciate it. This has been really fun. Like you said up front, Henry, at the beginning of this, we normally just cover animated sitcoms, so this was a challenge, but also a fun challenge just to talk about something different. And it's also been the first miniseries we've done where life has not been utter hell in terms of COVID. So it's been strange where these have always been fun distractions, but now the world's opening up again too. So I think we've all been in better moods.
Yeah,
during
man.
this.
And just to live in Batman, and this was our first time of not just going in chronological order, but picking our favorites from a gigantic series, which was a lot of fun. Especially for a short-lived show like Mission Hill, it's fun to go through every single one of them. But for a show as big as this, I'm glad we just did it. If we had just kept ourselves to just the first 10 episodes of Batman the Animated Series, we couldn't have taken the full scope of it all at once, you know?
And it worked out really well because we covered the first Joker appearance first and the last episode last, and then the holiday episodes lined up with the holidays.
Yeah,
so it all worked out. And I mean, in case you're wondering, I know we'll be back to this. I mean, there's 100 episodes. We've covered 10 of them.
Yes.
And there are I had to skip a few of the ones that I think could have easily fit into this 10.
Oh, totally.
And there's only a few ones that I would consider bad, but still watchable.
It'd be very easy for us to do another 10. Very easy. Laughing Fish, that's my first one in the next picks for sure. It shouldn't be every Joker episode, but they really are the best.
Yes.
I hate to say it.
It's well, I mean, they wanted to write the best episodes with him in it.
Yeah, he's great.
And for all our patrons out there, just to remind you, this is the end of 2021. I had to think about that for a second.
Crazy to say it out loud. Yeah.
2022 is beginning, but don't go anywhere because we are having now in the new year, both Talking Futurama and Talking the Hill are going to be monthly series now. So immediately, once the new year starts, you'll have 2 new exclusives coming at you in January, along with early access and all that stuff. So yeah, we moved Talking the Hill to be a now monthly series, just like Talking Futurama was last year, and they're going to be running every month all throughout 2022. I had to keep thinking of what year is next year.
Yeah, because before, very likely King of the Hill would have won our spring mini-series thing again anyway. So we're just like, instead of just doing 12 episodes of King of the Hill across 3 months like we did before, let's just spread it out over the year like we do with Talking Futurama, and it's just a constant now. So once a month you get a Futurama, and once a month you get a King of the Hill. And
then in the fall we'll be doing another miniseries, and who knows what form that will take, but there's another one coming at you. So just to let you know, there's going to be tons of new stuff coming in the new year, and we can't wait, along with our Talking Simpsons live show and all that fun stuff.
Oh, so many fun things. But what a great 2021 for all, and I hope all you Batman fans enjoyed us exploring the Dark Knight so in-depthly as we did.
So thanks again for subscribing, and we'll see you again next year for more fun podcasts. Take care.
It's just me, B-Man. No Joker, no gas bombs, no city in peril. Just you, that tank, and me.
Why?
To show Mr. J I could really pull off one of his plans. See, he could never get these fishies to smile. But then I had the bright idea of hanging the victim. That's you, upside down. That way, to you, it'll look like they're smiling. Clever?
Brilliant.